In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to update your HR Partner custom fields from an external source, such as an external form building software. We're going to be using JotForm today as an external tool where the employee can fill in some information, and that information will get automatically sent back into HR Partner and populated in the custom fields area. So you can see here in the employee record, we've got custom fields set up for like emergency contact details, their pet's name, and how they'd like their coffee. So what we're going to do is try and get all that information captured on an onboarding checklist and get it filled in automatically. So let's jump across into Chad's employee portal, and you can see there he's got an onboarding checklist ready and waiting for him right there. So if I go ahead and update it as you would as an employee, you can see there the third item down on this checklist is an option to fill in an onboarding information collection form. And there's a button there to open the link straight away, which is makes it nice and handy. So if Chad clicks that link, he'll be taken to a JotForm page on another tab with a little bit of a welcome message, including his name there, and with space to fill in the information for his emergency contact details. So let's go ahead and do that. Put in the name and number. Then we'll choose that he likes his coffee, let's say strong. And we'll put in a pet's name in there. So, let's say he's got a cat called Freddy. So let's put that information in there. And submit that through. And he'll get a little thank you message, which he can close down. And then he goes back to his checklist, and he can keep going with his checklist. But let's jump back across into the admin portal again quickly. And you'll see that when I go back to the admin portal and I refresh Chad's information, hitting the refresh button, all that custom information is in there already. So there's the emergency contact name and phone number. There's how he likes his coffee, and there's his cat's name, Freddy. All done automatically, no double keying required. Now I'll show you how to do it. So let's go ahead now and see how we create the form. As you can see here, I've logged into my JotForm area, and I've got one single form there for the employee information set up. Now, JotForm is a really easy to use software that I highly recommend you take a look at. You can create all sorts of useful forms for collecting data in there. But let's, for now, take a look at this one simple form that I've created. So let's go ahead and highlight the employee information form, and then click the Edit Form button next to it to go in and have a look. So here's the same form that we saw in that little sample that I did earlier on in the video. Very simple, just the 4 entry fields down the bottom here. But if you take a closer look, you'll see some subtleties in here, like we've got a placeholder there where we can place the employee name, and I'll show you how that works in a second. Also at the top of the form, you'll see there's a couple of hidden fields there which are sort of grayed out a little bit. And those fields are actually used to pass information between HR Partner and JotForm, and they're actually quite critical to this form. So they're hidden, so the employee can't see it, but they're used in the back end by Zapier to actually pass information back and forth, and you'll see how that works and why we need these. So it's really important that you have at least the employee code. The first name is optional, but the employee code is important. And when you set up these hidden fields, it's also important to take note of the internal JotForm name for these fields. So you can see here that first one's actually just called employee code, lowercase e and a capital C, employee code all one word. And the employee first name one, I think, is just called employee name. So take note of these 2 fields in particular, because they're going to be used in Zapier when we go and set up the Zap in a minute. The rest of the fields doesn't really matter. You can call them anything you like, really. So you can see there, the one's just called emergency contact. I think the next one's just called contact name or something like that. Those names aren't as important, but those hidden fields, though, are quite important for us to take a look at. So the rest of the form is all pretty easy. Like I won't go through that in detail here, but you can use the JotForm tutorials, which are really, really good. If you need them, 'cause it's so simple to use that you probably don't even need the tutorial to set up the form. It's a very basic drag and drop to set things up in here. So I won't go into detail there. But when you go to publish a form, once you've finished with it, you'll be given this very unique link from JotForm. Now this is a link we're going to use shortly in HR Partner when we're setting up the checklist. So take note of this. And actually, this is probably a good point to jump back into HR Partner and show you how to set up the onboarding checklist to point straight back to JotForm again. So let's jump back to the HR Partner admin portal and go down to the checklist templates and have a look at this onboarding template that we've set up before. So there's the onboarding template. Let's edit that. And let's look at the third item down there, the fill in the onboarding information collection form. So click edit on that particular item and let's look at how it's set up. So the description can be anything you like, but the checklist type is a link to an external site, and you can see there the link is the actual JotForm link that we were given before when we created and saved our JotForm ready for publishing. So there it is there, the JotForm link, which is exactly the same as what's in the link in HR Partner. But if you notice, there's a couple, we've got a bit of extra information at the end. So we've got this field there saying employee code equals, and then employee code, and employee name equals employee first name. So those two fields there, employee code and employee name that we see, that I'm highlighting right now, they're the internal JotForm hidden field names. So if you go back to JotForm again, remember back in the build settings on the hidden fields, if you click again on the employee code and have a look at the advanced tab, we can see that the name there is employee. So it's important to get these names exactly correct, even with the capitalization and everything else as well. So employee code and employee name, you have to basically, well, copy and paste them if you need to. But we need to put them into the link here so that we know that the employee code is based on the internal HR Partner employee code, and the employee name is based on the internal HR Partner first name. So that's how you pass these parameters from HR Partner across into an external system. It doesn't just have to be JotForm, it can be any other external system. So let's save that, and we can go on with the next step. So just a word of warning before we go ahead, this app we're creating here is going to be far more complex than some of the other ones that I've shown you to date. But don't be daunted, let's jump straight in and create one, and we'll walk you through it, and hopefully it'll all make sense. So before we go too far ahead, let's just actually give the Zap a name first. That's something I keep forgetting to do, is actually naming my Zaps. So let's go up the top here and give it a meaningful name first. Okay, so once named, then we have to specify the trigger as to where it's coming from. So obviously in this case, our trigger is going to be from JotForm. So click on JotForm, and it's going to be a new submission, which is really the only thing you can watch for. So we'll continue, and then we'll specify the JotForm account. Now I've already signed into JotForm. If you haven't already signed in, it'll prompt you to sign into JotForm here, so you can link the two systems together, and then continue. The next stage is actually say what form you're going to need from JotForm. So we've only got the one called employee information, so let's just choose that and continue. It'll ask you to do a little test, which is always a good idea. So click the blue test button, and you should see there's the one we just put in before for Chad with the the contact details and Freddie the cat, etc. So it picks up the last form details just to make sure that the link is working. And if it all works fine, then you can continue through. Now, on this next stage, we used to specify HR Partner as our action event, but in this case, no, we're actually not going to use the HR Partner app in here. We're going to do something different because there's a lot of manual manipulation we need to do. So we need to look for an app called Webhooks by Zapier and choose that one. So that's a premier Zapier app. But that's the only way we can get the information in. So we choose webhooks and then come down and say custom request. Now this next section is the tricky bit. So let's continue through and I'll walk you through all that. Okay, so let's follow along here. There's a lot of information to fill in, but we'll go step by step. So the first thing is the method. Now we need to choose the post method because we're posting information across to HR Partner. And in the URL, we have to specify the API endpoint. So I'm just going to cut and paste this in here, but we're basically posting the data back to the employee endpoint using our API server. And for the data passed through, we'll actually change it to false at the moment because we're not passing through the data from JotForm as it is. We're actually going to massage the data a little bit and actually reformat it. So So in the data type, we're going to specify a JSON data packet that's structured like this. Now, I'll go through and explain this in more detail. So what we're basically telling HR Partner is that for this particular customer code, we want to update these particular custom data fields. And how do you know the name of these custom data fields? Well, that's actually all within HR Partner as well. So in the code, we'll have the employee code. And then we've got this field there saying, okay, this is the custom data structure that we need to push back in. And then these are the custom data field names, which are the emergency contact number and name, etc., the pet's name. And these fields are all pulled from HR Partner. So if you go back to HR Partner and go into your setups, configure, and then custom fields, you can see that all the custom fields in HR Partner have a unique name. So there's the one for the contact name, for the contact number, there's the one for the pet's name, and the coffee strength will be, there it is, coffee strength's in there as well. So that's the names we need. So literally we're copying and pasting those field names across into here on the left hand side of each of these statements. So there's emergency contact name, and it's got to be exactly the same case, with the underscores and everything else in there as well for it to work properly. Now on the right hand side, that's where we're actually going to be putting the data. So this is the data we're pulling from JotForm. So the employee code is pulled back from JotForm as well. So let's go down and find the employee code. There it is. So it'll say code equals whatever the code is from JotForm. Then against the emergency contact name, we can go and choose that field from JotForm. So that information will be put into that field. The contact number is there as well. Coffee strength will be somewhere on this list as well. It doesn't come in sequential order, unfortunately. It seems to be all over the place, but we can go ahead and find it. There it is, right down the bottom. How do you have your coffee? And then pet's name is back up the top somewhere, I think. So that's it. So now we're pulling the forms from JotForm and we're putting it into the specific HR Partner field. So the code is the important one because that's the way we let HR Partner know what employee it is. And the rest of them can all just be populated from JotForm. So that's really the hardest bit on here. Now the next bit that we need to actually do on here is to fill in this header field. Now because we're not using the standard HR Partner application within Zapier, we have to provide the authentication data in here again. So we need to put the HR Partner API token in here. I explained in one of my earlier videos how you get the API token, but you'll need to grab that from HR Partner and put it in the header under X API key, exactly like it is on here. And once that's done, that is really it. So if you hit continue, it'll show you just quickly a test data that it sent across. So you can just make sure you test and continue that it all works, and there shouldn't be any errors. If you get a red error, there's obviously a formatting mistake with the JSON data structure. But if there's no errors, we can actually activate the Zap, and let's go ahead now and test it out again. So let's go back a few steps and make sure that the Zap's all there and saved, and it's actually green and turned on. And we'll jump back into HR Partner again and go to our checklist. And let's assign a brand new checklist to a new employee. So we go to assign checklist as we normally do. Let's choose the onboarding checklist, which has that item in it. And we'll send this checklist out to a random employee. Let's choose Matt. We'll send it out to him. And we'll just use a template here to save us typing in a whole message. So we can send him a custom message to do his onboarding checklist and assign that out. So there it is, assigned to him, ready to go. And we can jump into it here quickly to update it. And if we go down to the item for filling in the information checklist, also the information collection form, it's all ready to go. Click the link, which should open up the JotForm, and it should have his name on there. So it'll say welcome Matt. His information. So let's fill in some more custom information here just to see. So we'll put in let's say his wife's name as his emergency contact. Put in a random number. And let's say he likes his coffee very hot. And he's got a turtle called Terrence. And submit that through and he'll get his little confirmation thank you form. But if we close this down now and then we jump back and go into his employee details. Now before I mentioned that the Zap's only run every 15 minutes, so we may have to manually just run it now just to refresh the data across to HR Partner. We've got a red message, so probably it means it's already run by itself. So we must have timed it just right. So it's actually run the update in the background, which is nice. So we should be able to jump into his employee record now. And there you go. There's his information. With Terence the turtle, that's his pet. There's his wife's name and number, and how he likes his coffee. Done. So that's how quick and easy it is. Now you can go and edit the fields as well. So if you go to edit, you can change this information if you need to, but there's no need to like copy and paste from the external JotForm or anything else. It's all done automatically, saving you heaps of time and hopefully making your HR partner experience that much better. Thank you so much for watching.